Before we get straight into the podcast, I just want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, Kirby GAA Star. Declan Kirby GAA Star Championship Journey. It's a series of GAA team children's books written by primary school teacher and GAA coach Michael Egan. You can check it out in the link in the description down below, of course, as well. Follow the trials and tribulations of Declan Kirby and his team at Smithgreen Gaelic Football Club, recently formed but promising GAA team. The book is now available in Easons and all good bookshops, so check it out in the description down below, and let's get straight into it. Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. My name is Aaron. It's the football review show, a little bit later than usual here on Tuesday rather than Monday, but I'm delighted to be joined here by Matthew Hurley from the GAA Statsman podcast here to review all the weekend's action, discuss all the big talking points. There were plenty of games that obviously were postponed due to the weather and everything else, and obviously plenty of stormy conditions, as we're very well seen throughout the majority of these games that were taking place. But first of all, Matthew, how's things with yourself? How are you keeping? You're enjoying all the football action anyways, and even if, I suppose, similar to myself as a Dublin fan, not enjoying the wins at the minute?
Not at all, and thanks for having me on again, Aaron. Can't you mention that about Cork there, and maybe it's something to get off your chest, being a Dublin fan. It's a bit rough at the moment. It's a bit rough for both of us, but yeah, at least two of our games were on during the week. I was going up Derry. Most of my followers know that. Got up at about 4 o'clock in the morning. So thank God, actually, the game went ahead, because I was just seeing on my Twitter feed Galway game going off. I think Roscommon, there was a chance it would go off. Fermanagh went off on Saturday night. So there was a big chance that it could go off. But in fairness to the people of Derry, they have a very good venue there in Owen Beg. So the game was always going to go ahead despite the conditions. But enjoyed the games that were on, at least. And looking forward to more the next few weeks. We're getting to crunch time now in the Alliance Leagues, so it should be very interesting.
Yeah, we're seeing the promotion and relegation places really starting to open up, and it's certainly becoming more and more clear throughout at least Division 1 and 2. Obviously still plenty of games in 3 and 4 with some of the postponements there, but yeah, we're seeing a lot of promotion and relegation places opening up. And I suppose we'll start with Tyrone and Kildare. I mean, this was probably the most enjoyable game for myself anyway. Maybe Mayo fans might say different, but in terms of this game, like, I felt like it was maybe not a spectacle in terms of point scoring or goals, but in terms of it was an end-to-end game. Had a real championship feel going into the final 5 to 10 minutes. You really felt like both sides were really, really going for it. It felt like there was a lot on the line. And this is how it should be as well, like, especially with the potential of either one of these two dropping down to Division 2. Obviously still a lot of games to be played, but whoever had have lost this game, which obviously is Kildare, you know, they're most likely going to be in a relegation battle now. That's fairly certain. But what were your thoughts on this victory for Tyrone?
Yeah, I looked at the score at half-time, travelling down to my hotel in the car, and kind of surprised at the scoreline. Actually, Kildare going ahead, maybe there was a win there, but Tyrone did very well to get the 2 goals. And in fairness to Kildare, like, they didn't lie down either. Like most people think at that situation, Kildare would just lie down, take a big beating. But in fairness to them, they got back in the game. And who knows, if Daniel Flynn went for goal really in the last minute, Tyrone could be staring down the barrel of relegation there, so it ebbs and flows that way. But fair play to Tyrone, they grounded out the victory, and let's not forget they were missing the 4 lads, the 4 naughty boys, let's say, from that incident against Armagh. But yeah, considering that and considering they were behind at halftime, it was a good win for Tyrone, and they'll move into the Alliance League. And it was always going to be the case, really, for the All-Ireland champions. You look at over the last few weeks, they lost to Cavan quite heavily in the McKenna Cup. They got 2 points out of the first 2 league games. So it was always going to be that way. They were always going to bet into the league, and they've done that eventually now, and it's all about surviving. For Kildare, I don't think it's the end of the world either. Like, they're losing games, but they aren't particularly getting hammered. Like, against Donegal, they were in the game. Tyrone, they were in the game. And Kerry, arguably, they were the better team in Newbridge as well. So they've Dublin next. I know it pains me to say this on your behalf, Aaron, but Kildare will fancy their chances there against Dublin. It's going to be a full house, I believe, so should be a tasty encounter for this game. Yeah, good win for Tyrone, but Kildare, not the end of the world by any means.
Yeah, and the first time Dublin are playing Kildare in Newbridge since 1995, apparently. So that will definitely be one hell of a spectacle, no doubt about it. X1 says there, Tyrone made a great comeback in the second half. And yeah, I suppose that was the most impressive thing from a Tyrone point of view, wasn't it? I mean, they were 4 points down in the first half. again, it was just looking like a very laboured performance. They weren't particularly in the game, but in the second half, they really did come out and start to show like the Tyrone of last year in many ways. They started to play not to their absolute best. Like they only kicked 3 points in the second half, but obviously got themselves 2 goals. And certainly did come more and more alive, like in the second half. And when you have the likes of your Dara Canavan, who was causing all sorts of problems, Darren McCurry starting to come back into his all-star form. So definitely a big positive for Tyrone, given the players that they had missing and given some of the players they introduced into the team as well. I thought they were very impressive in the second half.
Yeah, I suppose that's a good incentive to have for championship as well. But as I said already, it's about getting the win here, getting the 2 points in these league games. I don't think Tyrone fans will be bothered if they don't win the league. They just want to survive and just head on into the championship, because let's not forget their championship run as it stands for Manham might not be performing particularly well, but they have Derry in the next game. And look at Derry this weekend. They look ready for road against Tyrone. Monaghan look a decent side as well. So they'll be geared towards that in the championship. I don't think they'll be that bothered about the league, to be honest. They'll let Kerry or Mayo try and win that Armagh, and they'll do their business in the championship. It was kind of the same last year where they got hammered by Kerry and they just grew into the championship then. They have the players as well, as you said rightly, Dara Canavan, Darren McCurry, Kieran McGeary, of course, was suspended. He's to come back into the team. So they do have the players there. They do have the players to threaten, and they have the luxury to, rotate the squad a bit and, concentrate the Ulster Championship. But that would be the main aim for Tyrone, in my opinion, anyway. And in most people's opinions, especially Tyrone fans, like, the league isn't that important. The championship is, and Tyrone will be ready for road in that. Even if they go into the qualifiers, we've seen over previous years, Tyrone will excel there. So the All-Ireland is the main aim, to get 2 in a row for Tyrone, to not to do something that the 08 team or the 05 team didn't do. And that would be historic in its own right. But as I said, they won't care too much about the league. They'll go into the All-Ireland. It's all about survival. And I think with 3 points right now, they should get about maybe 2 more wins out of their next 4 games. Get that, I think they've survived. And that'll be mission accomplished for the league for Tyrone. But the championship, they'll be ready for road, in my opinion.
Yeah, do you think they're going under the radar a little bit? Because I do think a lot of people are forgetting they are the All-Ireland champions, and I think everyone is just looking at Kerry and Mayo maybe as the 2 front runners, and some people are obviously still mentioning Dublin in the conversation, and even seeing the interview, I think on RT, I think it might have been Marty Morrissey after the Mayo game, and he was asking Robbie Henley in terms of, he was telling him, like, you'll still have to worry about the likes of your Dublins, your Kerrys, but he didn't mention Tyrone, and I think a lot of people took a lot of offence to that. It seems like a lot of people don't really seem to be considering Tyrone as All-Ireland contenders, which I find strange, to be honest. I do know they have a couple of players who've opted out, like Mark Bradley and Tiernan McCann, but they weren't regular starters anyways. And we've seen with Tyrone last year, they got absolutely trashed by Kerry in the final game in the league, regrouped and went all the way to win the All-Ireland. So where would you see them in terms of the All-Ireland big picture at the minute?
I've said this all along. I think the main Achilles heel for Tyrone would be the run they have in Ulster. Like the likes of Derry, the likes of Monaghan. When you compare that to Kerry, they have an easy run in Munster and they can rotate and, try out new players, and they'll be all ready for road for quarterfinals, semi-finals. But I suppose on the other hand, then Kerry won't have the competitive nature of their games going into the last 8. Tyrone definitely will. When you look even before the Ulster final, look at the teams there. So I suppose there's arguments for both sides of the fence, but there's an argument Mayo could do very well. I think Mayo will do very well this year in the All-Ireland. Like, if they beat Galway in the first round, which is no gimme either. Galway look to be performing well enough. Like, in the next game, I'm not sure who they have. They Sligo or someone like that in the semi-finals. That should be an easy win there into the kind of final. So I suppose in that regard, I think Mayo probably have the most ideal journey to the final if they get that far. The All-Ireland, of course. Tyrone have it too hard. Kerry have it too easy. Leinster, I don't know, Dublin, they don't look the same threat they were over the last few years. So I think it'll probably be the 3 of them, Tyrone, Mayo, Kerry. And don't write off Armagh either. I know some people are saying it could be a Roscommon sport of form in Division 1 they had a few years ago, but they have some very good players in the team. We'll get on to them at the minute, obviously. But I think it'll probably be Tyrone, Armagh, Mayo, Kerry in no particular order would probably be the top 4. There's a few teams close, Donegal if they get their act together, but I think they'd be probably the 4 front runners from what we've seen so far. And what our opinions think at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are recording this live, so feel free for anyone who is watching live to get your comments in. The next one says there as well, they're the second best team in the country and most definitely deserve the respect. And yeah, absolutely, they're definitely in the conversation. There's no doubt about that. As for Kildare, I mean, some very impressive performances in their opening 3 games. I mean, will they look back at this with a bit of regret, though, given the fact that, Tyrone did have 4 players who were out missing? And it's clear that Tyrone, although they did play well in the second half, do still have another level to go up on. And I think we're all expecting them to get to that level at some point. There was an opportunity here for Kildare, and they did miss goal chances. Like Dara Kirwan had one chance, which was saved by Noel Morgan, went over the bar. Daniel Flynn with that late goal chance as well. So, do you think they'll look back at this with a bit of regret? Because I feel like if they were to get relegated, and look, there's still 4 games to go, you'd still fancy them to pick a couple of points out on the board. But if they were to go down, I feel like they will look back at this game as maybe that was one of the games that got away from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned the Daniel Flynn points, any lower and that's in the back of the net. And Tyrone could be staring down the barrel of relegation, and that would be unbelievable in its own way. But yeah, you're right, Kildare, they will definitely regret this, but it's all about regrouping now. Like the next week, they'll definitely target Dublin, a full crowd at Newbridge. They'll want to beat Dublin, like after so many years of Dublin, hammering them in Leinster, hammering them in league games that they had, of course. This is a big opportunity for Kildare to right the wrongs, really. And I suppose in the last few games, I think they have Mayo have no home games. I'm not sure where they have them, but I know Mayo are performing well at the moment, but that could be a potential banana skin for Mayo playing against Kildare. I suppose they have Armagh as well, and Armagh and Monaghan as well. So, like, it's realistic Kildare could stay up. Like, usually I heard this from, I think, Fitzmaurice on commentary last Saturday night. The aim for a team is to get to 6 points. Kildare are on 1 at the moment. Potentially with Monaghan, Armagh and Dublin, you possibly could see 3 wins if they perform to their absolute best. That'll get them to 7 points. Maybe it is a possibility. Like the only team to go down with 6 points, I believe, in the last few years was Cork in 2016. So it is the aim to get to 6 points or even 7 just to have a safety net. And also as well, the scoring difference. That'll be a huge turning point in this. They didn't get beaten by that much against Donegal. They only got beaten by a point against Tyrone, and they had a 0 goal difference against Kerry. So, the points difference isn't that bad compared to other sides. Like, I'm sure Dublin is worse. I haven't checked the league table in detail yet, but I think Dublin is worse. So that's definitely a positive that Kildare could build on. But then again, it would be good in other years, but Division 1 this year is so tight. It's usually 1 or 2 points either way, and it will be difficult that way. But the points differential and the games they have left, I give Kildare a chance. But for this game, it is a game that it did slip away, let's be honest. Like, even the Mark Donlan effort towards the end, you probably you bank him to put it over the bar. You look at him getting so many 45s in the past, or even Daniel Flynn, if he just puts that shot lower, or Dara Kirwan either side of the goal rather than straight at Noel Morgan, we could be looking at a different league table. But for now, yeah, Kildare, they live in hope. But I'd be optimistic if I was a Kildare fan. Like, if you get to 7 points, that's mission accomplished. I think you'll survive with that. So, look, there's reasons to be optimistic, but a lot of regret to look back on too.
Yeah, like I don't think many people really gave them a chance in Division 1, including myself. Like, it's such a competitive division. It's so hard to pick up any points anywhere, and we'll see. Like, it will be very tough for them. But what do you reckon? Do they turn over Dublin next weekend in Newbridge?
Jeez, I don't want to upset you, Aaron.
It's okay. The damage has been done already. So,
the obvious answer, look here on social media, would be yes. I think they'd probably beat Dublin, but I don't know. Surely with some Dublin players are still there. Like Davy Byrne's still there. Evan Comerford was in and around the panel, so they know what it's like to win. So it's all about getting that winning mentality back. I think Dublin will turn it around. They have to. Like, if they don't turn it around in this game, no matter how hostile the atmosphere is in Newbridge, don't turn it around in this game, there's no going back for the next 2-3 years for this Dublin team. And I genuinely mean that. Like, if you end up with 0 points after 4 games, that is crisis mode. I have to say no. Like, there is an argument in the first 3 games you face the best 3 teams in the league in Armagh, Kerry, and Mayo. If you don't win this game against Kildare, or even if you draw it, like, that is crisis mode for Dublin. And yeah, it could be a rough year for Dublin, and we could see Division 2 games in Croke Park, and it'd be probably better for Cork to stay in Division 2, so we'll have a Saturday night under lights in headquarters.
Yeah, I can just imagine all the Division 2 teams now regressing themselves just a little bit, so they get a day out in Croke Park, and maybe surely then all of a sudden there'll be a bit of attention on Division 2 from some of the big TV companies. But yeah, like what you said there, like it's a tough one going away to Kildare. And I do think maybe a good thing from a Dublin point of view is that the game isn't on Saturday night and is actually going to be played early on Sunday, because maybe with it being at night time, maybe the atmosphere would have been a lot better for the Kildare fans. But moving on, I suppose Kerry, they got a comfortable enough win against Donegal, 113 to 7 points. And as you were saying there, like, there's definitely a case being made at the minute that's it's looking like Kerry, Mayo, and Armagh are probably going to be the front runners for the league. And this was very, very comfortable from Kerry, like a result that never looked in doubt. David Clifford didn't even start, came off the bench, and it's a sign of things are working out when he got the goal that he did, because he never went for the goal in any way whatsoever, but it just so happened to cripple into the net. So huge win for the Kingdom.
Big win, yeah. And I suppose the only thing that we weren't sure about was the game going ahead. I seen on Kerry franchise, the weather there at Kildare was absolutely dreadful. Like he said, he would allow a car person in that kind of weather. Like yeah, it was that bad. Like, and the conditions there, the goal just emphasized that. Like, it was an absolute fluke. Like some people were saying, "Oh, Clifford, what a goal!" On my story, was saying, "Oh, I have to watch this in League Sunday." It turned out Sean Patton just let it slip through his hands because of the weather. Like, it was that kind of a game, and it was going to be comfortable for Kerry. I couldn't really see Donegal going down to Kerry all that way in them kind of conditions in Kildare to go on and win the game. But again, for Donegal, it's not the end of the world. Kerry were one of the best teams in the country. They had Michael Murphy missing for that game, so it's all about getting him back into the team now. So, yeah, it's a comfortable win for Kerry, but then again, are they being tested before All-Irelands? They definitely won't get tested in Munster, let's be honest. So are they getting tested before the quarterfinals? In this league campaign, I think the only team to really test them was Kildare in Newbridge, but that was because maybe the Kildare players got, the bounce from the fans in Newbridge that day. So there is an argument Kerry aren't getting tested enough in the league, in Munster. And will that affect their All-Ireland performance? It has been previous years. This has been detrimental for Kerry's progression, but in this game, they didn't get the test they needed. It was a simple enough victory, but it wouldn't be the end of the world for Donegal either. It's again like Tyrone, staying up in Division 1. That's the main aim. Donegal hardly care about leagues, to be honest. They care more about Ulster Championships or getting to the All-Ireland semi-final. Like, Donegal have been in the semi-final since 2014. That's hard to believe in its own right. So they'll be aiming to get back to there. But as for Kerry, easy enough victory for them, and they'll move on and try and win the league, Munster Championship. But the main thing is winning that Sam Maguire Cup. They haven't won in the 8 years. It's a famine in Kerry. They'll be going for that this year, and they'd want to get tests from here until the end of the league, because it's absolutely crucial for this Kerry team's development.
Yeah, and there's a show as well, like Kerry's strength and in depth as well, because even like David Clifford was named in the starting 15 originally, and then obviously what didn't start was a late change. But even when you were watching the first half, it didn't really look like you were like, if you were a Kerry sport, you weren't missing David Clifford in any way. Like, they still had their forwards there. They were still kicking points in the likes of Paul Gainey and some, Killian Spillane. So I mean, that probably shows the options that they have in attack, really. Like, that even with David Clifford not starting, they were still able to comfortably dispatch a Donegal side that is probably third, fourth, maybe even second best team in Ulster at the minute.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. Like, against Cork, even going back to the Munster final, Clifford was marked out of the game by Sean Meehan, but they still scored 422. I know Cork are dreadful at the moment, but that's still some scoring. With Clifford only scored 1 point and it happened to be from a free. And even didn't play against Cork at the Bragg Cup either, and Kerry just looked so comfortable. And again against Donegal, they look comfortable. It's the talent Kerry have all over the team. I said this before, and I'll say it again. Paul Geaney is one of the most underrated players in the country for years now, not just at the start of his career, the end of his career. He's been underrated since about 2014. He's one of the best forwards in the country, and he's scoring loads for a reason. Sean O'Shea is an unbelievable player. Stephen O'Brien, when he's on form. Micheál Burns is another player who I think, if he lights his fire, he'll be a very good player as well. You didn't mention Tony Brosnan either. Very good player. Paul O'Shea, Paul Walsh, even I've seen him for UL over the last weeks. The guy that bit Ronaldinho, some player as well. So they do have an abundance of talent, Kerry. They seem to, improve defensively. Well, there's still some questions defense, but Dan O'Donoghue did play well on Sunday against Donegal as well. So maybe that's another option to have. Stephen O'Cumber, if he comes back from injury. So the signs are very good for Kerry in getting that Sam Maguire Cup. And I have the feeling, though, if Kerry don't win it this year, this will be a huge opportunity missed. Like with Dublin being down in the doldrums, Mayo, we don't know when Mayo are going to win the All-Irelands. Tyrone have a hard run in Ulster. So the door is open for Kerry to win this Sam Maguire Cup. The question is, can they execute it? With the players they have, the answer is yes. With the games they have leading up to a quarterfinal or semi-final, that's a question for another day. It hasn't come to fruition over the years. They'll be hoping to get that Sam Maguire this year.
Yeah, and I do think the evidence is there of Paddy Tally being in the background. Like, you're seeing Kerry being able to shut up shop a lot more as well and being a lot more defensively organised. I suppose from a Donegal point of view, it's almost like Dublin 2.0 when you're watching them play at times. It's just hand passing it from side to side. No real variation in their play. Again, never really look like coming back into the game. And okay, fair enough. They have 3 points on the board. The main thing for them will be to survive, obviously, in the National League. Still have Michael Murphy maybe to come back at some point. Obviously, he's having his injury problems at the minute. But generally speaking, for Donegal, what did you make of them? I mean, for myself, they just didn't really look that great at all. And it's hard to really know with them because we've seen them put in these type of performances in the league. But I don't know, I would worry that there isn't enough variation in their play, or there isn't enough, they don't really kick directly. And that's why, as a Dublin fan, they're probably one of the teams I'm most confident will actually beat in Croke Park, because I think Donegal play a very similar brand of style, and I think it will probably suit Dublin.
It probably will, yeah. And even they were mentioning League Sunday, when they had to go for the game, when they were 9-2 down at half-time, they were still playing defensive tactics. They were just happy to keep the score down as low as possible. And that kind of emphasises the point that Donegal just want to stay in the division. They don't want to win the league, and they'll try for Ulster. But they've done that over the last few years, and they still haven't got to the last four since 2014. So there's clearly a problem there. They have the players, no doubt about it. Michael Langan's a superb player. Paddy McBrearty, Jamie Brennan when he's on form, Michael Murphy. The question is with Donegal, do they have it when the latter end of the year comes around? They haven't in previous years. They messed up against Cavan. They messed it up against Tyrone last year. And they don't seem to do well in the league. So there's a question with Donegal. It's one or the other. Do you want to win the league, or do you want to win the championship? They've been aiming for the championship over the last few years, and they've fell flat on their face every single year since about 2015. So that's a question Donegal need to answer quick and fast. And they need, I do think Declan Bonner, this is his last year anyway. I thought he'd go out, honestly, last year. He stuck it out this year, and I don't see, with Tyrone, Armagh, Monaghan, even Derry performing levels above Donegal at this particular moment of time. I don't see Donegal winning Ulster. That will probably be the end for Declan Bonner. It'll probably be the end for Declan Bonner if they don't get to a semi-final or final this season. But the question is, who's out there for Donegal? Maybe Jim McGuinness. Would he come back into the fold for Donegal? If he would, I think Donegal fans would be over the moon with that. But for now, I don't think they'll challenge for an All-Ireland. They won't win an Ulster title, and it'll be similar to previous years for Donegal. But they do have the players. It's just about playing the right way for Donegal. Play a bit like Kerry, a bit like Tyrone. Don't be shy and just kick the ball long rather than just hand passing it around. We talked about Dublin and Cork before we came on air as well. They keep hand passing the ball back. There's no variation. It's too predictable. Donegal are nearly the same. maybe it was just this game, but it's been happening over the last few years as well when they were under the cosh. So I suppose Declan Bonnert's his last year, he wants to impress. I don't think he will this year personally.
Yeah, 99 Aguero says there, as a Monaghan fan, I've no shame in saying Kerry will smash us in Enniskillen, I think, there on Sunday. Jack can't carry us on his own. We say that he couldn't against Tyrone. I think he's referring to Jack McCarron there. So, yeah, we'll definitely get on to Monaghan a little bit later. But I suppose Dublin and Mayo, we were touching on Dublin a little bit earlier. And I suppose for Mayo, like another huge result in Croke Park against the Dubs. I mean, this was a place that would have haunted Mayo fans for quite a long time, coming to Croke Park playing Dublin. And now, you know, that was as comfortable probably as they've ever been really against Dublin. You know, that game could have went on for an extra half an hour, 40 minutes. And, you know, we could still be playing there now. And I'm pretty sure Mayo would probably still have a 5 to 6 point lead if that was the case. So very comfortable result. And I suppose all the congratulations and praise has to go to the Mayo men once again.
Yeah, it definitely does. And there's a real bit of optimism in Mayo at the moment. And even without Cillian O'Connor, without Tommy Conroy, let's not forget, they still beat Dublin quite convincingly as well. That's kind of a worrying thing for Dublin's point of view. But I don't think the credits Mayo got, I don't think they got the credit they deserved on Saturday night. They mainly looked at how Dublin have regressed over the last few years. But let's not forget, Aidan Orme was superb. Jack Carney coming into the team after his All-Ireland victory with Kilmeade, superb as well. Dermot O'Connor, I can't believe he didn't get man of the match on Saturday night. He was dictating the play from deep and from up in the forwards as well. What a player this guy is. Again, another underrated player, Matty Ruan. And even Aidan O'Shea, that's an interesting thing with Aidan O'Shea coming off the bench. I've spoke to a few Mayo fans. They obviously want Aidan O'Shea off the team. But look at the last few games, Aidan O'Shea coming onto the pitch is actually a better player. Like, he's fitter going onto the pitch. He wins ball around the middle. And if necessary, they could put him into the square if they're chasing, you know, a goal, and Aidan O'Shea could catch the ball and hand pass it to Cillian O'Connor, finish it to the back of the net. So there is positives for Mayo because they have a bigger squad coming off the bench now. Like Oshie Mullen back for the first time as well since his Australia rumours. He played excellent the other night. Pádraig O'Hora has to come back into the team as well. Robbie Henley seems to be in the form of his life at the moment as a goalkeeper, one of the best in the country, in my opinion. So fair play to Mayo. What a superb victory. And the Mayo fans were actually surprised at how easy the victory was. And that's a worrying sign for Dublin. But as for Mayo, superb victory. And arguably, they'll be probably the second best team in the country behind Kerry, just ahead of Tyrone at the moment. Don't write off Tyrone by any means, but Mayo look a serious prospect. And with Cillian O'Connor come back as well, like, it could be Mayo's year. It definitely could be Mayo's year. I know I've been saying it everybody's been saying it for years and years and years, and they never deliver. I just wonder, can they do it this year? Like, you know, I think they'll probably win the league. Them or Kerry. Will they win the All-Ireland? Like, they have the talent for it. Do they have the execution? I'm not sure. But for now, brilliant victory.
Yeah, like if they had Conroy and Cillian O'Connor, I think it would be, you know, maybe Cillian O'Connor will come back at some stage, but I think if they had them two definitely fit and available, you'd make more of a case. I think you definitely can't write them off anyway. They always just seem to be there, no matter what injuries they have, no matter what obstacles seem to come in their way. They always seem to find a way. And AJ Walsh O'Donnell there was saying earlier, do you see Mayo beating Kerry and Tralee and getting to the league final? That game isn't until another couple of weeks, I don't think. But I mean, that would be a mouth-watering game as well. Like, the idea of Mayo playing Kerry at the minute, like, it's two attacking teams, two sides that have been thereabouts in recent years, two teams familiar with each other. There's a rivalry there. Like, that game is a couple of weeks away, but it's probably one of the most anticipated games really at the minute because, like, Mayo and Kerry, just two very attacking teams. And, you know, with that game being in Tralee, I'd imagine it's probably going to be an RTE. Like, that will be a cracking game when that comes around.
Oh, it definitely will, yeah. And probably an All-Ireland decider for later on in the year. And yeah, Tralee, it's always a full house as well. So the atmosphere will add to the game itself. And geez, it'll be some game interesting as well. Mayo, the last time they went down to the Tralee, they actually won the game. So, you know, it'll be an interesting prospect there. So yeah, this has the feel of kind of an All-Ireland decider for the bookies in many ways. If Kerry win it by a canter, people will be saying Kerry 1-1 odds to win the All-Ireland. if Mayo win it, geez, that'll be some statement of intent if Mayo beat Dublin, Kerry, and possibly Tyrone in the same year as well, Armagh as well, if they win those games, of course. So it is a mouth-watering tie in 2 weeks' time, and I'd be definitely looking forward to seeing that on RT. Of course, if it's on RT, surely it'll be on RT, given they're probably the best two teams in the country at the moment. And yeah, Tralee will add to the atmosphere. The players on the pitch look in superb form at the moment. It definitely tends to be a cracker whenever Kerry and Mayo come up against each other. The rivalry has gone on for quite some time as well, since about 04 and 06. So it should be a very good game down at Tralee, and very good atmosphere as well, which definitely adds to it.
Yeah, and I suppose finishing up on Mayo then as well. I mean, like obviously still a couple of games to go, and we were mentioning there about them beating Dublin, beating Kerry. I mean, all outside their home stadium as well, because obviously McHale Park is under construction at the minute. So I mean, that probably shows just another obstacle that's put in their way, and they seem to keep overcoming it. And even Ryan O'Donoghue, who I thought was fairly quiet in the game at Croke Park, at least scoring wise anyway, and they were still able to win as comfortably as they are. Like, it is a hard one when you judge them, because you do look maybe back at their finals record over the last 5 to 10 years. But I think people are forgetting as well, like, this is a new team that really, a lot of these players have only been playing 2-3 years, really since 2020. And you're seeing even with Oisin Mullen as well, who looks like a phenomenal athlete. So, like with Mayo, they're going under the radar a little bit again. And a lot of those players aren't even in their prime yet as well. Like, so there's a lot to look forward to really for Mayo.
Oh, there is, absolutely. And even Pádraig O'Hora is still young in that team. Yeah, there's some very good young players. Jack Carney coming into the team. Ryan O'Donoghue, as I said, wasn't at his best that day, but you have lads like Aidan Orme stepping up as well. Darren McHale to come back to the team from injury as well. Jeez, it's a very good prospect for Mayo. Even Fionn McDonagh did well in the Sigerson Cup as well. So, my God, they have a very good team coming through. Matty Ruan played well the other night, another brilliant player coming back from an injury. So yeah, Mayo have some very good players. It's all about execution. We've said this about Mayo every year, really. They have the talents. They have the manager. James Horn's an outstanding coach as well. Kieran McDonald in the backroom team as well. The question is, can they win the All-Ireland? And most of the people, except probably Dublin fans, would just hope that Mayo win the All-Ireland. Like I'd hope Mayo win the All-Ireland, definitely, and I suppose every other neutral will hope they win the All-Ireland. Their nickname is Mayo, God help us, for a reason. Like, can they win the All-Ireland? That's the big question. I think this year is a big opportunity, considering Dublin aren't at their best whatsoever. Like, they could even drop to Division 2. I suppose we'll get out to Dublin next, but Kerry, there's a question: will they get tested as big as Mayo and Munster? Simple answer to that is no. Like, Mayo have to play Galway and Roscommon. Maybe that will build up their strength going to the quarterfinals. That would stand to them as well, because Galway are a very tough team. So, yeah, by every reason, Mayo could win this All-Ireland without a doubt. Dublin are at the wayside. Tyrone have a hard road. Kerry aren't really getting tested in Munster either. It's not helping them. So, if this is the year to do it for me, this is the year, without a doubt. If they don't win it this year, you have to question, when will this Mayo team win it? The next 30, 40 years? Like, this is a huge opportunity for Mayo. And yes, it is a new team, but if they reach the All-Ireland final this year, it's their third All-Ireland final in a row. They have to win it now this year. And yeah, this is a better time than any to do it. And I'll be back in Mayo, of course.
Yeah. Well, I suppose for most Dublin fans, I think they'd probably rather Mayo win it than Kerry or Tyrone, or maybe, like, I'm not sure. But look, hopefully Dublin maybe can regroup, and hopefully they'll still be in with a chance. But yeah, speaking of Dublin anyway, X1 was saying there, I've never seen a worse Dublin performance in that second half. Didn't play like the Dublin we are used to. And that's the thing, isn't it? Like, where do you think, like, I suppose it's gone wrong for Dublin, like, as a neutral watching in, as a Cork fan? Like, I mean, is it as bad as what people are making out? Is it, are they in a crisis, or is this early league? Because there does seem to be a lot of mixed opinion, where some people are saying It's only February. Like, don't get too worried. All Irelands aren't won in February. All the rest, and then there's another opinion of Dublin are in crisis and they should get rid of Desi now and all the rest. Like, so where do you stand on that debate?
Well, they certainly aren't in a bigger crisis than Cork at the moment. I'll tell you that. I don't know, does that brighten your mood? But yeah, it's a strange one actually. Like, they do have a few young players, but just not enough coming through, in my opinion. Ross McGarry actually looked very good the other night, kicked 2 points, but I don't know why he went off in the end. I suppose it's the luck as well. When the luck is not which emphasised by that Evan coming for the OG, went off the post with the back of his head into the back of the net. Like, when those sort of things happen to you, you just have to accept things are just not going your way. And but it's the way Dublin are playing as well. Like, they're hand passing the ball. Even I see the highlights reel on League Sunday. Brian Howard waving his hands, say, "What else could I do?" Like, that's a sign of a team kind of a disarray. But at the same time, I've mentioned this before. I'll say it again. The first 3 games were arguably against maybe the best 3 teams in the league, in Armagh, Kerry and Mayo. The next game against Kildare will tell an awful lot about this team. Have they really dropped off as far as people think, or is it a bit of an overreaction? That's the ideal game to judge Dublin, not really in the first 3 games, because I think Mayo, Armagh and Kerry are just ahead of you at the moment. It's just simple facts, really. Like, even Armagh, the players they have all over the pitch, the athleticism. But yeah, it is a very strange one with Dublin. Is Kieran Archer going to come into the team? Is Padro Coffey-Byrne going to stamp his authority onto the team? Like, Larkin O'Dell looked decent against Armagh, and he's drifted off completely. Ross McGarry performed well against Mayo and got taken off. Like, these players need consistency at the same time. Like, it's no good just performing in one game and then the next game you just don't touch the ball once. Like, you have to perform really consistently. Even Brian Fenton this year, he's unrecognisable this season. Like, he's a winning ball around the middle. Matthew Ryan was dominating him against Mayo. So yeah, it's a really strange one with Dublin. The cohesion isn't there. Like, the efforts, I seen kind of the effort in the first half. It was kind of there, but I think the fact that Mayo were just so far ahead, the heads just dropped, and you couldn't see Dublin getting back into the game. I suppose that's normal for any other team. It's not normal for Dublin. We don't see that in the past, like against Kerry, for example, in the 2019 final, when Johnny Cooper got sent off, he could have easily said their heads would go down, but they fought to the end. Against I'm thinking, though, against Tyrone, when they were 5-1 down, I think, in the first few minutes in 2018, the heads did drop. The heads are starting to drop now. That's a real sign of a team that's really in decline. But I suppose it isn't as bad as people think. I think the proof will be in the pudding against Kildare next Sunday. Lose that or draw that, then you could say we're in disarray. But for now, I just think Armagh, Mayo and Kerry are just a step above you at the moment. I know that won't be pleasant to hear, Aaron, but it's the truth at the moment, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Like, and I think it's the results. The results aren't as bad as maybe what they look. I don't think the results is the thing what Dublin fans are maybe getting frustrated over or annoyed. It's mainly the performances, really. Like, for example, you've got Kildare on one hand side of the breath, who've, you know, they got a draw against Kerry, fair enough, but they're also winless in their first 3 games. But the difference is Kildare have fought tooth and nail in all 3 of those games, have given themselves a fighting chance, have gone for goals, they've changed it up, you know, late on in games, they've made good substitutions. Whereas Dublin, on the other hand side, like when they've fallen behind, there just hasn't been a game plan at all. Like, it's been aimless shooting from ridiculous angles, slow build-up play, no like urgency really to try and create any goal chances. Like, I remember there was one stage in that Mayo game where Sean Bugler picked up the ball over on the left-hand side near by the sideline, went on a drive and run. It was almost Jack McCaffrey-esque, laid it off into, I think it was Larkin O'Dell who came off the bench, forced a save, ended up getting a point. But that was our only goal opportunity I can remember. But I remember seeing that, and it was like, my goodness me, like that's what we need to see more of. Like, you know, Dublin players taking their man on, whether it be the wing backs or midfield, just taking your man on, running off the shoulder a bit more, trying a few more things, because it does seem that it's just very laboured and one-dimensional. And you can see now that the likes of Mayo, Kerry, Armagh, the good teams have that figured out now, because it is just very one-dimensional football.
It is definitely. It's happening in so many teams around the country. We mentioned already Dublin, Donegal, Cork, or another team I've seen on Sunday. Like, it's too predictable. Like, there's no point in hand passing the ball. Pat Spillane said a few years back, I think it was 2013, there's no skill in hand passing the ball. You have to kick the ball eventually and try and get some goal opportunities. As you mentioned there, Dublin had 1 goal chance. You know, like, with Dublin, they'd usually have, I don't know, maybe 5 goal chances, 6 goal chances a game. For a Dublin team to have 1 goal chance is short of a disgrace for the levels you set yourselves over the last few years. And it is a really strange one, because you see it in the under-20s with Dublin. They perform similar way to the great Dublin teams of 19 and 20, etc. And the young players don't seem to have the urgency to do it either. They're too shy, to kick the ball long, too shy to make a mistake. But loads of players just make mistakes at the same time. Like, there's no point hand passing the ball, because you're going to get nowhere behind your own 65. To get further up the pitch, you have to kick the ball long. And Mayo were kind of playing a brilliant defensive structure, in fairness to them. But what's the way to break it down? To kick it. Dublin didn't do that. I think they only did it, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 times a game in 70 minutes. Like, you can't do that and expect to win a game. And I suppose things are going wrong. Yeah, I get that. But you have to make an effort to get it right at the same time as well. And even the body language from some of the players, Brian Howard, exemplary on League Sunday as well, waving his arms about, it just isn't going right for Dublin. The players kind of have given up. But maybe the game against Kildare will give the kick that Dublin need going into the future, because they definitely need it. Like, they were too shy to do it against Kildare, Armagh and Mayo. If they don't do it against Kildare, if they don't kick the ball, and I mean actually kick the ball a long distance, like, there's no hope for Dublin this year, in all honesty. And it could be a rough couple of months for the Dubs, and a bit strange considering the last few years he had real success.
Yeah, and funny enough, actually playing in Newbridge, I think, might suit Dublin in terms of like that hand passing kind of style of play, and not having too much variation. But you would expect there surely to be a bit more emphasis on attacking play now, and a bit more movement up top. I think from the full forward line, I think is definitely needed. And maybe Con O'Callaghan comes back in there, or someone at this stage. I think they're definitely crying out for it. Vince says here, hi guys, great content. Mayo can and will win League Cups, but Sam, we just don't do it year in, 71 years out. Dub will be major players come the Crooks again in August. Mayo Abu. Yeah, appreciate the comment first of all. Massively appreciated in terms of the great content, or the mention of the great content. Yeah, look, I do think Dublin, they have the potential there. Like, they do have the players. It was only a couple of years ago they were winning All Irelands year in, year out. They weren't losing too many games in the league. They were up there. So there's inevitably going to be a drop off with the players that have opted out, players that have retired, and younger players coming in. Like, there's no denying that Dublin are definitely in transition. There's no doubt about that. But in terms of the style of play, in terms of the mentality, I think that's the big problem and big issue for myself anyways, and for other Dublin fans, is that for as good as they were a couple of years ago, they still have some of those players there. It's just the mindset doesn't quite seem to be there. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, that's exactly the point. Like, I mentioned Brian Howard waving his arms about, Evan Comerford just looking dejected, the forwards even looking really dejected up front. Brian Fenton doesn't seem his usual self either. The young players don't seem to be enjoying themselves. That's a main thing with Dublin. If you don't enjoy what you do in life, you're going to get nowhere. Dublin don't seem to be enjoying themselves at the moment, like they have over the last few years. And maybe Pat Spillane mentioned this on League Sunday as well. Maybe there's a ceiling with these players. They've reached the top so many times over the last few years that there's no further you can go with an amateur sport, especially. With professional sports, you can get brand deals, you can get sponsorships, you could go, like, for example, if you win the Champions League, you could go on win the Club World Cup, you could win multiple Champions Leagues. You can win a Premier League title. You can go for quadruple. With Dublin winning so many All-Irelands over the last few years, there is a ceiling. And some of these players, most of these players, in fact, have just reached the ceiling. And that's the honest point. Maybe there was rumours, I don't know, is this true or not? Conor O'Callaghan's going to go with the hurlers as well. And if he goes with the hurlers, he could have legendary status in regards to being a dual player in GAA. Because if he goes to the hurlers, they could realistically win the All-Irelands as well, considering double strength and conditioning there as well. So, yeah, there's other things that players want to do as well. They don't seem to be enjoying their football. I'm a bit surprised that the younger players aren't enjoying their football as the likes of Howard or Fenton. But, look, it's the way Dublin are at the moment, and they have to be enjoying themselves. And right now, unfortunately, I don't think they're enjoying themselves too often. It could be a rough few months for Dublin, definitely.
Yeah, it is a fair point, and you see this with a lot of professional athletes, really. Like even Tyson Fury is one of the big examples, really. He won all the belts, was champion of the world, and then was having multiple mental health struggles because he'd achieved it all, and sometimes that can happen. You can reach the summit or the mountain. I obviously have no experience of that, but I'm sure other people have spoken about it before, where you do reach that sort of tipping point, and you're kind of looking up and you're thinking, geez, what else do I do? Like, where else do I go from now? So it might be a case of that maybe with Dublin, and it's probably a case of trying to find ways to remotivate themselves. And I think that comes down to management as well, and it comes down to a few other things as well, legacy, records, because there's always records there. And I know for Dublin fans speaking, I think one thing that was motivating Dublin fans that they were thinking of was obviously catching Kerry's All-Ireland record and sort of stopping them from coming up and dominating the All-Ireland scene. But whether that's a mention in the dressing room, I'm not sure. It could be a game-to-game approach like a lot of these things are. I wouldn't be too sure. But I suppose moving on anyway, I mean, Monaghan and Armagh obviously ended in a draw. There was a comment coming in there that we'll get on the screen here from Gunbo, who says Monaghan will beat Kerry on Sunday. So I mean that's definitely a big claim. Haven't seen Monaghan against Armagh in this game. Would you be as confident as this commenter here that Monaghan might be able to turn over the kingdom this weekend?
I have to say I love the optimism. So keep being positive. That's the thing. But look, Kerry are just boils a bit at Monaghan. Well, not boils at the moment. So I think Monaghan do have the players. Conor McManus at the moment now seems to be missing for the next game, so that's a huge loss. And the thing with Monaghan, they don't take their chances. Look, I haven't been taking stats at any Monaghan games, but most of their shooting accuracy seems to be below 50% from what I'm hearing from analysts. So that's a very bad sign for a Monaghan fan. As for Armagh, look, they had the high over the last two games. They got the draw when they weren't playing particularly well. I think they'll be happy with that. And yeah, the penalty should have stood definitely, but I suppose they scored the goal straight afterwards, so it probably didn't really matter. But it was kind of a weird game in many ways. Like Monaghan played well in the first half; they probably should have been more ahead. Then McManus gets sent off. Then Armagh take control, and then Monaghan score later on. Like they didn't score for like 30 minutes, I believe. Like that's. Like, you can't do that in a game of Division 1 football in that standard. Like, it's unforgivable at times. But, look, I think both sides will be happy with the draw. Again, I think both sides will be delighted to stay up in the division. Armagh will definitely stay up. They're on 5 points now. They should get another point or two to stay up. As for Monaghan, they still have another bit to go. But they have Dublin and Clonus. So that's a big game there. They'll target that last game of the league campaign to try and win that, because Clonus is a tough place to go. And the Monaghan folk will get behind their team there. But as for this game, I think both sides will be delighted with the draw, personally. Armagh, not as good a performance as the last two games, but they got something out of the game. Monaghan will probably be more disappointed, but at the same time, getting a point from the Athletic Grounds, you would have taken that before going across the border.
Yeah, I think it's another game though that's probably drifted away from them, or that they've left behind them though, because I think this game was definitely there to be won. Like they should have really had the game wrapped up going into the couple of the final couple of minutes, and they got lucky enough with the penalty. Obviously, you can clearly see from the replay, clearly goes over the line, and I don't really know how the umpires didn't notice that. Really, like you'd question what they're there, why they're there if they can't make decisions like that. But I mean, it was a huge turnaround from Armagh, who probably could have nearly won the game in the end with some of the late chances that they had as well. Like, and there was a comment coming in there from hello, my name is James. He says, how many wides did Monaghan have in the first half? 12, 13. Need to be putting them away. It was definitely double figures in terms of wides in the first half anyway. Like, and Conor McManus obviously goes off with that red card, so I'm not sure he might be suspended for the next game potentially. So, like, for Monaghan, again, it's just like they clearly have the talent, but they just seem to be architects of their own downfall. I've seen this story too many times with Monaghan down the years. Tyrone in the first game, to a certain extent. You're thinking back to Cavan a couple of times there in the Ulster Championship when they lost to Fermanagh. Like, they clearly have the ability and talent to get over the line, but they just seem to almost defeat themselves rather than anyone actually beating them.
I suppose another example of that was the Armagh game last year as well. I know they won the game in the end, but to allow Armagh come back into the game when they scored 4 goals in the first half the way they did, like, that is a serious thing with Monaghan. Even Dublin a few years ago in Croke Park, they should have won that game as well. Like, it kind of happens, thinking about it, it happens way too much with Monaghan, and it is definitely a problem they need to fix. They do have the players, without a doubt, like in every position. The problem is, and maybe this is a solution to the problem Monaghan have, it's the depth. That's no fault of Monaghan. I honestly think Monaghan are punching above their weight with the population they have. But coming off the bench, they don't seem to rotate their team. I see their team nearly every week now, and it seems to be the same every week. Like, when you see with Armagh, and to a lesser extent with Kerry, with Mayo, with Dublin, I know Dublin are struggling with Dublin usually as well. They changed their team quite a lot. There's players that could come in and do a job for the team. With Monaghan, I don't think the depth is there. The fact they're in Division 1 for so long now, since 2015, that's an unreal achievement. I just wonder, will the depth that they have over the last few years come back to bite them this year? It kind of is a question that's kind of hard to answer. Maybe Kildare and Dublin are weaker than Monaghan this year. But I think the depth's a huge issue. Even Kildare, I think, have slightly better depth than Monaghan. Donegal have better depth than Monaghan. Maybe even some Division 2 teams like Galway and Derry have maybe even better depth than Monaghan. So that's a problem Monaghan need to rectify over the next few years. But then again, they are overachieving. They're punching above their weight for the size of their county. But that is a big trouble. And to stay up in Division 1, usually you need a big panel to come on when called upon and perform well. I just don't think Monaghan have that. And maybe that's a reason why they don't close out games particularly well.
Yeah, like, and they do have plenty of talent coming through the under-20s at the minute. We've seen them in the Ulster final last year, and you've Aaron Mulligan in there, and obviously Andrew Woods and a few different players who've been introduced in recent seasons. So, as you said, like, they are doing very, very well for the resources that they do have, and they are probably a perfect example for some of the lesser-known counties to potentially get up to a level of a Monaghan. I suppose from an Armagh point of view, I mean, probably a bit of a drop off in their performance from their opening 2 games, but then again, like, it's probably unlikely that Armagh are going to keep that consistency for the entirety of the league, because they will have one eye on a very competitive Ulster further down the line. And I think if you were to ask most Armagh fans, surely their priority is staying in the league. I don't think their priority is really getting to a league final. I don't think that's of huge significance, but I think Ulster, with the talent and players that they have and the progression that they've made in recent years, surely they'll be looking at Ulster, Donegal up first. I mean, surely they'll want to be thinking, we need to get to an Ulster final, if not win it this year.
Yeah, that's the main aim for Armagh. And even if they beat Donegal, I think they've Cavan in the semi-finals. Cavan are improving this year, so that'll be a tough game in its own right. Ulster will be a main aim, and to stay up in Division 1, that'll be definitely a main aim as well. So, I think Armagh will be definitely happy with the point. They didn't perform to their full potential as they did so well against Dublin and against, I've got blank now, the second game, Tyrone, obviously. How could I forget the fight there? Look, Armagh, they'll be happy with that point against Monaghan. They didn't perform particularly well. They'll go on to the next game now. And as I said, you need about 6 points to stay up. Armagh have 5 at the moment. Get another 1 or 2, maybe one more win. and they've survived. Job done, complete. So I think they'll be happy. I don't think they'll be too fussed if they don't get to a league final. But Ulster, considering they haven't won it since 2008, that's a big game for Geezer, definitely. And they have the players, definitely, to do it. And again, it's all about the execution for Monaghan to win this Ulster title. I think they definitely have the potential this year. But again, they can't get cocky after 2 performances. There was an element of kind of that against Monaghan. You can't do that in the next few games against the likes of Mayo, for example, who are coming on down the line, or Donegal, of course, the quarterfinal, and in the league, of course. So Armagh need to brush up on that. But other than that, I think Armagh will be happy with their progression so far.
Yeah, Shane Keeley says here, worst Cork team I've ever saw playing versus Derry. What are your thoughts on that then, and your thoughts on Cork in general at the minute? Would you agree with that comment?
Absolutely. And what else can I say? You know, Jesus, like where can I start? You know, fair play to Derry first of all. Derry are a brilliant side. Shea McGuigan shooting the lights up. Patrick McGrogan very good from centre back, and the Derry folk were very welcoming as well, and they'll do very well this year under Rory Gallagher. But the other side of the story, we scored 3 points from play. We scored 1 point from play with the wind. Like if you don't use the wind to your advantage, you're never going to win games, especially against a side like Derry. And what I noticed about Cork and the difference between the two sides, Derry had a plan. Get the ball, kick it long into Conor Glass or Shane McGuigan or Lachlan Murray, and then claim the ball, put it over the bar. With Cork, once we get to the 65, we'll turn around, hand pass it again, bounce. So it's just boring to watch. We aren't getting anywhere. We did this, I think the only time we actually kicked this with real purpose in the game was the Kevin O'Donovan point towards the end. That was in the 71st minute of the match. You can't do that. It's clearly you can't do that. And I don't know, half the players, it's kind of sad to see, I don't know, half the players just didn't look interested. I thought anyway. Like, there is an argument, Dublin in the first half, I know some of the players didn't look interested in the second half against Mayo, but in the first half, there was kind of an interest there. With Cork, it was throughout the entire game. The players just didn't look like they wanted to be there. They wanted to go back on the bus home to Cork. And it was just poor to watch. And I know Billy Hennessy played well for the Bars, but he's not a centre-back. He's a wing-back. See the size of him. Like, you know, I don't care what anybody says. We need Daniel O'Mahony and we need Sam Ryan in the full back line. And to not pick them is criminal, in my opinion. Sam Ryan was the best club defender in the club championship, maybe other than the Kilcrew players, and he's not picked in this team. I mean, that tells you all you need to know about our problems. Daniel O'Mahony, who was exceptional last year when he played, isn't playing fullback. Like, you know, it's a strange one to know, but it is very strange because I was talking to one of the players' parents, and they were saying the players actually like Ricken. They like what he's doing. It doesn't look that way on the pitch. They just don't look interested. There's no, you know, go about them. There's no kicking the ball in an attacking manner. I think Dan Deneen performed pretty well in Derry. Stephen Sherlock performed pretty well, but other than that, it was just hard to watch. And even Blake Murphy coming up, like Blake Murphy came on the 63rd minute of the game or something like that. That's way too late for a player of his talents. Like, why aren't we starting him? At least playing half the game. Like, we're 5-3 down at half time. We needed to bring Blake Murphy on at that point. Like, and the structures are kind of all wrong in Cork as well. Like, we've seen so many injuries in the past few months, weeks. Sean Powter getting injured again. Sean Meehan getting injured over the last few weeks. Killian O'Hanlon, Aidan Brown. And I was hearing from some players within the Cork system in minors, under 20s, they have a different strength and conditioning coach for every grade. One in every grade, rather than just one strength and conditioning coach. Each of those strength and conditioning coaches are just going to tell the players different things. That's just going to cause more injuries in our team. Cork are the most injury-affected team in the whole country. There's the reason why. Like, you know, I just thought last year with Keith Ricken coming in, this is a chance to build now. I know there's young players, but again, I'll go back to if the players don't look interested, what's the point? It's like even the players' heads started to drop, the bars' heads started to drop, and even another point with the bars and Cork, the difference between the sides. Ian Maguire's one of the tallest players in that Cork team. In the bars team, Ian Maguire is about fourth or fifth in that team. That just shows you, the strength and conditioning isn't there, the height isn't there, our players are, kind of not up to inter-county standard either. That's just a worry, in my opinion, and it's only going to get worse if we don't solve the problem quick and fast. We're playing Galway now on Saturday. We're going to get a pasting, to be honest. I wouldn't be surprised if Galway beat us by 20 points.
20 points, you're up.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, like it's a bit of two sides of the story there. Galway are too good for Division 2. We belong in Division 3. And even I've been chatting to some Cork fans, they're saying we'd probably be better than Tailteann Cup. I don't think we'll even win that. I think Cavan are better than us. Westmeath are better than us at the moment. Limerick, if they get in, I think they'd be better than us. They'll hold their own against us. And maybe if we do win it, it's a way of getting to Croke Park, but at the same time, we're relying on getting relegated for Division 2 to get to Croke Park. A few seasons ago, we were relying to play well against Kerry to get to Croke Park. How the mighty have fallen, Aaron, and, it's only going to get worse if we don't solve the problem quick and fast. And Derry, as I said, performed excellent. Cork, drab, in my opinion.
Yeah, I suppose, is there an element of Cork maybe and Keith Ricken's management style maybe trying to conserve themselves a little bit for further down the line for championship maybe? I know that sounds kind of crazy because, I mean, even if they're at their absolute peak, I mean, it would still be a mighty task to beat a team like Kerry, but are they trying to, because I think we've seen this with Cork before when that year they got relegated to Division 3 and they ended up getting to the Super 8s in the same year. Like they actually got a lot better as the year went on. So do you think maybe there's an element of that, or is that kind of just maybe, I suppose, looking for some positivity there?
Right, it kind of is, to be honest. Like Keith Ricken said before the year of it started, the league will be so important for this team. Consider, like, if we get relegated to Division 3, we're basically the Tailteann Cup. We're writing our own death warrant because we're not beating Kerry and Munster. Clearly, like, I know it's in Parky Green because of the Ed Sheeran concert. That might give us a big advantage because the pitch was tight and it might make Kerry uncomfortable. But Kerry are still going to beat us. It's not going to change anything. And look, even in the Tailteann Cup, if we perform that way in the Tailteann Cup, if we get into it, of course, I think the likes of Westmeath would beat us, Cavan would beat us. I don't want to go too far and say London would beat us, no, but like London are performing very well. And I wouldn't be surprised if actually Liam Gavigan performs, like Brian Cullen Cooper and scores 10 points against us at the moment. Like it's a rough time to be a Cork fan at the moment, and it's quite sad, really. Like coming out of Croke Park, my parents were coming out and celebrating the victory and all that, and my dad was saying to my mom and my granddad at that time, this will be another 20 years, drink this in. And we were saying, geez, 20 years? 20 years? That was 2010. We're 8 years away from 2030 now. It's a reality now. We won't, and maybe we won't even win in Ireland by then. Like it's rough. It's really rough to be a Cork fan. And even I was looking at the football pod and James O'Donoghue was ranked as third, which is fair. I think Clare have improved, but we've regressed badly. I think Limerick could be catching our coattails as well in Munster. To be fourth in Munster, that's, if you said that a few years ago, you'd be putting an asylum, definitely. But it's just rough to be a Cork fan at the moment. But look, I suppose the only way is up. But with these performances, it doesn't look that way, unfortunately.
Yeah, and Vince says Derry are going to be big this year. And do you know, like, is that maybe the point though? Maybe a little bit, like they have faced some good teams, like in the and I haven't seen Cork obviously nowhere near as much as you. I know this game was on TG Cahir and I got to see some of it, but like, I mean, they have faced some tough opposition in the opening 3 games in this division, like Derry, Roscommon, Clare, 3 teams probably, and Galway upcoming as well. Like, it's been a bit of a nightmare fixture list. So, like, have they faced really good opposition maybe, and do you think maybe that's probably why they've looked as bad as what they are, or is it a case of maybe a bit like Dublin where the fight just clearly isn't there?
It's more like Dublin, to be honest. I think the fight isn't there, and the difference is Dublin have quality. With our young players, they aren't up to senior inter-county at the moment. I don't think we have much quality at this present moment of time. Yeah, I suppose it is the fixture, but at the same time, Roscommon were missing half their team because of injuries, and Padraig Pearce's lads missing. Clare had 2 injuries in the first 10 minutes, so they were there for the taking as well. They didn't perform to their high standard, and weirdly enough, I know Derry have really shot the lights out over the last few years, and they performed well. I don't think that was Derry's best performance on Sunday either, by any manner of means. They could have even pasted us really bad if they wanted to. It's only going to get worse against Galway next week. But I suppose the last 3 games, it is a positive there. We have Meath away, who are in a bit of crisis mode, a bit like us at the moment. So that'll be an interesting game in its own right. Down even coming down to Páirc Uí Chaoimh, they might have the Kilcoo lads coming back into the team. Seeing their performance against Meath on Sunday, there'd be a bit of positivity in Down. So that might be, a tough result to get as well, even in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. And against Offaly, I think we should be able to beat Offaly. To be honest, I think Offaly are kind of out of their depth in Division 2, has been shown so far in the league. But yeah, I think it's kind of a bit of both at the same time. Yes, we played Derry, Clare, Roscommon. Yes, weakened, but very good sides at the same time. But the performances is the main thing. Like, I was talking to some fan as well, and going up to Derry, we wanted a win and a performance. We got neither up in Derry, and that's the most disappointing aspect to this whole weekend. It was great to travel up to Derry and love to do so again, but Cork just didn't do well at all, and it'll be a long, long way back over the next few years. And Keith has a huge job in his hands over the next few years. Definitely, will he last the 2 years, but will he last even longer than that? If things get worse than they are now, I don't think he will. I hope I'm wrong, but because I think he's an excellent coach, but it's just the talent isn't there, the drive isn't really there either, and the confidence isn't there. Keith was actually mentioning in his post-match interview afterwards, when he gets so many beatings in the past, the likes of Tyrone in 2018, the likes of Kerry in 2021 and Kerry in 2018, that'll take a toll of the players. And it's rough at the moment. I thought things were coming back to normal for Cork football in 2019 when we started to actually play positive football in the Super 8s, and towards the end of the league, we haven't kicked on since then. We just haven't, and we're just back to square one, really. Back to like 2016, back maybe to Division 3, and sometimes it might help us, but I suppose we've been in that situation before and we haven't got out of it pretty. So, it's going to take a while until we're back at the top table. It's sad to see, but it's the reality as a Cork fan at the moment.
Yeah, it is mad, all right, because I think I've mentioned to you before, and I've said on this podcast before, when Dublin played Cork in that Super 8s game a couple of years ago, and I remember Cork gave a really good display against the Dubs, like up until the final. Dublin pulled away in the final 5 to 10 minutes, but I thought coming out of Croke Park that day, I remember thinking Cork are in a good place. Like, they've got good players there, they're building right, and it is kind of incredible, really, how quickly and how sharply they've declined over the next couple of years. I suppose before finishing up on this game, just a word on Derry. I mean, would you be expecting them to get promoted up to Division 1? I mean, as you were saying there, they haven't looked at their best in their opening 3 games, but that probably shows maybe how good that they are, that they can win without playing, at their best.
It does, definitely, and even Rory Gallagher was mentioning in his post-match interview afterwards, there's a lot to improve on. There was a lot to improve on against Down. Often, I didn't see the game. I only saw the Down game and the Cork game. But by then, games didn't perform to their best. I know they're capable of. Last year, they performed excellent against Offaly in the league final and Division 3 against the likes of Cavan, and performed excellent, of course, against Donegal in the Ulster Championship. They haven't performed peak levels yet. The next game now is against Clare in Cusack Park. That's a huge game for both sides in the race for promotion. Like, Clare have got 4 points out of the last few games. two draws and a win. That's not particularly bad either. Like, if Derry can win that, that's a statement of intent, and they're meaning business. I know some people are saying Derry for All Irelands, but look at their performance, even not performing particularly well. I think that's a realistic aim, to be honest. Like, Lachlan Murray looks very good up front. Shane McGuigan scored 8 points. Padraig McGrogan, very good from centre back. Conor Glass and Emmett Bradley dominated the Cork midfield, dominated the Down midfield, and dominated the Offaly midfield. So they're probably the best midfield partnership in the country at the moment. Niall Loughlin didn't perform at his best on Sunday, but in the Sigerson Cup for UUJ, he looked very impressive indeed. And Ciara McFall, let's not forget, was actually out of the team against Cork. Maybe pick up a knock. If it is, maybe that's a big loss because he played so well for Watty Graham's Glen. And if he does come back next week, maybe there's a positive there that he's going to be added to the fray. Oshie McWilliams, actually the guy that came in instead of him, performed excellent as well. So I was speaking to a few Derry fans up in Owenbeg, and they seemed, down to earth. They're going well at the moment, but there's still more to improve on. And they're being realistic in a way. I think, by the looks of the first few games, I think it'll be a fight in the end between the 4 sides up to the top. I'd say it's split between the 2 sides. Roscommon, Derry, Galway, Clare, 2 of those will go up. I think Derry, if they perform even better than they did against the likes of Cork and Dow, which I think they're capable of, I think the sky's the limit really, and they could even go up to Division 1. I think the only side really that could beat them on their day quite comprehensively at the moment is Galway in Division 2. That tells you all you need to know. They're so far ahead of most teams in this Division 2 league. So, good luck to Derry. They've nice fans. They've some very good players, very good manager, and wish them all the best. They've some very good players, obviously. And I think we'll see them in Division 1, if not next season, the season after, even the season after that. They look a very good team, and they could be a Trenton Ulster this year. Like, they could even beat Tyrone. I know that's a big statement there, but Tyrone might be tired after a league campaign. Derry might have something to prove against the likes of Tyrone. Monaghan in the semi-final. Like, Derry could really go on a run to Croke Park this year. I think they will play in Croke Park, whether it be a Division 2 final or even a quarter-final or semi-final, who knows?
Yeah, we've a comment coming in there. Matt is absolutely mint on all things GAA. Great analysis, lad. So there you go. Nice bit of compliment there for you. Maybe that'll cheer you up after all the down and talk of Cork. But Roscommon and Clare, I mean, we'll move on to this game. I mean, this ended in a draw as well, 9 points apiece. A good point for Clare. I mean, they're proving that they can compete in this division, and you certainly wouldn't rule them out being up there in a promotion race. It would be very tough for them with the likes of Derry, Roscommon, and Galway up there. But I mean, they keep surprising people. Like, they're unbeaten so far. A lot of people maybe thought they'd be down near the relegation battle, and they're proving that they're going to be up in contention for promotion.
Oh, they definitely are. Like, it is the 3rd season in succession now. Colin Collins has got them in the promotion charge. Like, that is some achievement with this Clare team. And even I was mentioning on a Cork preview at the start of the year, or an Alliance League preview, that when's the bubble going to burst with Clare? Like, even the young players coming through. Emmett McMahon looks very good in the Sigerson Cup. Daniel Walsh, Darragh O'Neill. They still have players to replace the likes of Gary Brennan and Gordon Kelly, and even David Tuberty, who, by the way, scored a phenomenal point to level it against Roscommon. I've seen it on TG Carr highlights. He still has he can go on till 50 years of age. The guy is some player. It's a good point for Clare. A decent point for Roscommon too. Like, Clare are a decent side. Roscommon will take that. And the weather was a big element in this game. Like, I was even looking at the pitch. I have a friend who's a Clare fan. Even looking at the pitch before the game, it looked an absolute mess. And to be honest, the fact the game went ahead was an absolute miracle, in my opinion. Even looking at the pitch, it looked awful. And to play on that and both sides score 9 points, to get a draw of the game, could be a crucial point towards the end of the year. I think Roscommon will be disappointed, but at the same time, Clare deserved the point. Getting the last 3 points to grind out that draw. And they've Derry now next week, as I've said, in Cusack Park. That would be a huge indicator to see where Clare actually are. I think they'll definitely put up a huge test against Derry. I know Derry have been saying they'll go to Croke Park and all that, but Clare will definitely put it up to Derry. And I wouldn't be surprised if Clare actually win that game. Not that Derry are bad or anything, it's just how good Clare are at the moment. And for Roscommon as well, the Padraig Pearse lads coming back into it, they have some very good players like Conor Cox, in the Smith, Donny Smith still there, Ulton Harney. So, look, it's a positive for both sides. They're in the promotion chase now, definitely. And best of luck to both sides. And I think Clare will definitely put it up to Derry next week. They definitely belong in Division 2. It's no fluke. They've been in Division 2, I think, since 2015, 2016 or something like that. That's some achievement for a county like Clare. They've been in Division 2 the longest. And fair play to them. I think they'll give Derry a real test next Sunday.
Yeah, 99 Aguero was saying there Clare deserved promotion last year, and they definitely, they were very, very close. They gave a really, really good display against Mayo. And I know they obviously got turned over quite easily against Kerry, but yeah, in the league, they just have this thing where they're consistently in all of the games that they play, and they're always in with a fighting chance. They're showing that fight, whether it's David Tubridy or Owen Cleary, and yeah, a very good point for them, and they'll definitely be in contention in the weeks to come. Meath and Down, I mean, this was a game probably pitched as maybe a bit of a relegation fight, a relegation battle. Not the best game from what I've heard, obviously in very tough conditions. I think I've seen a video as well. I think it was at this game where it was one of the Meath or Down players down by the sideline looking to float a ball in, and the wind just completely blew it the complete opposite way. So it was very, very tough conditions. But a draw in the end, I mean, I don't really know. I think both, I think both teams will be disappointed here. In many ways, I think this was an opportunity to get points on the board. What were your thoughts on this one?
Look, Down would have been delighted to come down to Fairtyale and get a point before the game, but after the game to score nothing in the second half. But granted, the conditions were absolutely awful by the looks of it. And I see that video as well. I think it was Jordan Morris. It might have been the player kicking the ball, and it just went into the stand. You'd never see that. I think the last time I saw that was Dean Rock a few years ago against Tyrone, where he was taking 45 for a free, and it just blew the other side of the goal completely. But I think, honestly, yes, there's a bit of regret from both sides. They needed to get points on the board, but at the same time, the conditions were tough. They got no points before the game. I think both sides will be happy enough, but at the same time, this was an opportunity, especially for Meath at home, to get 2 points on the board against the side most people tip to go down to Division 3. But look at Down, actually. They're actually 4th from bottom in this division. At this stage of the league campaign, you wouldn't have seen that. You would have expected them to capitulate like in previous years. But in fairness, there's some very good young players coming through. And forwards up front, Barry O'Hagan, Andrew Gilmore looks good, Sigurdsson Cup, and for Down as well. And their fullback, Finn McElroy, looks one to watch this season as well. So, and Kilcoo lads to come back. So there is positives for Down looking at the next few weeks. And for me, I suppose after a few poor results against the likes of Galway and Roscommon, very bad performances, they'd be just happy to get over there with a point. Both sides would be happy to get a point, in my opinion. It'll be a big fight for survival. I think Offaly are the team that will obviously go down. I think I've said this before, they'll be out of their depth. I think the other three teams, I know Cork are bad at the moment, but we're still in a fight with Meath and Down. That'll be a big fight to avoid relegation. It'll be interesting as well. I heard this first on League Sunday that 6th place actually could also get you in the Halton Cup. I actually didn't know that before League Sunday the other night. So look at that. That Division 2 relegation battle should be very interesting. Not just who goes down, but who will finish, second in that mini group.
Yeah, it is an interesting one, all right. It will be interesting to see, I suppose, what way it's going to work there. And you are kind of seeing a bottom four very much emerge. There's a lot of teams down there that actually haven't won a game, but yet they're still very much in contention of survival. It doesn't seem to be as competitive maybe as Division 1 in terms of results. Maybe one win, maybe 2 wins might be enough to avoid relegation in Division 2. Moving on to Division 3, big win for Louth away at Limerick, obviously winless in their opening 2 games. Louth, Limerick were coming in on the back of back-to-back wins. They were flying, and I suppose a Samuel Roy in sport performance once again for, I suppose, the Wee County. Huge win, 2-point win, and a first win of 2022 for Mickey Hart's men.
Brilliant win for Louth, and extremely high-scoring game, because I've even looked at footage in that game as well. And geez, that was horrific conditions. Even Josh Ryan for Limerick taking a free. I think it was Tony McCarthy had to put the ball down from almost like in rugby when there's wind around the stadium, and even the game was actually moved to UL rather than the Gaelic ground. So that tells you how battered Limerick was, but the county that is, not necessarily the football team. But Loud, good result for them to go on the road all the way down to UL and get them 2 points. That's the most important thing for Mickey Hart. And Sam Roy, I'll say it again, I know he was on your podcast as well. If he was in any other county team, maybe most other county teams in the country, he'd walk into that team. He's just some player. I've even seen him in Parky Keeve down against Cork during lockdown a few years back. Superb player. He scored, I think, 75% or 80% of low scores or something. The guy is absolutely superb and doesn't get the recognition he deserves, actually. For Limerick, a 2-point loss isn't the end of the world either. Like, scoring difference will obviously come into play as well. But for Loud, very good win. Very good win for them. Very good win for Mickey Hart. And Sam Roy, most underrated player in the country, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he's a phenomenal footballer. He really, really is. Like, I mean, just keeps on improving, has the standards there. I've listened to him on another podcast as well, the Sideline Live podcast, and very openly speaking about, his time with Louth so far and what he wants to achieve. And just brilliant person and fair play to him. Like a huge, brilliant for him to get on the GAA team of the week as well. And, plenty of other talent as well in Louth, and Kieran Keenan and a few other lads in that team, Sam Byrne as well, who've obviously come through there, or Connor Byrne, I should say. So, they're looking pretty good, and it's obviously going to be very, very competitive down in Division 3. It's very hard to sort of see who's going to be promoted and relegated, and we'll see in the next couple of weeks with some more games to play. But another team that's done very well, a team that I personally thought was going to go down, in Antrim. That's 2 wins from 3 now for Enda McGinley's men. Huge win over a very spirited Wicklow team. But Antrim marching on and firmly have their foot in a promotion race.
Yeah, excellent win for Antrim race, and Wicklow don't seem to be getting as much beatings as everybody predicted, so fair play to them for that. Still in the fight in Division 3, but for Antrim, they could have easily laid down after that result against Limerick last week, or 2 weeks ago, should I say. It was a very good victory for Antrim. Again, Kevin Small, very good. Mark Jordan, very good for Antrim. So, good win for them. They'll definitely be up there for promotion. I think it'll probably be between the likes of Antrim, Louth, Westmeath and Limerick to go up to Division 2 and to avoid the Tailteann Cup. This should be very good for their development as well. So, very good victory for Antrim, but at the same time, not the end of the world for Wicklow either. They still have a fighting chance of staying in the division, and they would have taken that, considering like Davy Burke left them last year, or Davy Burke, I should say, left them last year. Colin Kelly coming into the team, people questioned whether they'll improve. They have done relatively well, losing games, but at the same time performing relatively well. But for Antrim, very good win, and they're definitely in the promotion race. And I'd probably tip them to go up. They look a very good side. Maybe the Limerick game was a bit of a blip. Maybe Limerick scoring the goals was the difference 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, a big win. And like what you said with Wicklow, like obviously losing Shawnee Furlong at the start of the year, who's probably one of their sharpshooters, really. And you've Kevin Quinn in there with a goal, Mark Kenny with 3 points, Andy Marr contributing. So, yeah, for Wicklow, there does seem to be variation in their play in terms of score. And anyway, they don't seem to be relying on 1 or 2 players. So definitely some positives, I suppose, to take into the next couple of games. And arguably, they face some tough teams already in there as well, in Westmeath and Antrim, who could be the 2 teams to get promoted. So Wicklow will definitely take a lot of confidence. The other 2 games in Division 3 were called off due to the weather. So obviously that's the reason for not mentioning them. There were just 2 games in Division 4, and the first one, I mean, London just keep on going, keep on marching on. I mean, it's incredible, really. It's three wins from 3 now. I mean, the Fairytale continues, and again, they were behind the half-time by 4 points, come back from the dead again, 3 wins from 3, and promotion really now is starting to look very, very likely, I think, for the Exiles.
Oh, it is, yeah. Very, very good victory for London. I actually didn't expect London to beat Leitrim. I thought Leitrim would actually be up for promotion, but yeah, it just shows what a good team London are, and we need to take them more seriously as well. Liam Gavigan, very good. I'm sure Killian Butler was out for this game as well, one of London's standout players. That just shows you the variety they have in the squad. So they're definitely a good team, a team that they're not just a team to be happy for anymore. They're a team to be taken seriously. Maybe even in the kind of championship, we'll have to see. But to Michael Maher, a huge credit to him. 2 years without a game, and to win 3 games on the bounce in Division 4 against Leitrim, Waterford and Carlow. Some decent sides there, like Waterford and Carlow played well in the league last year, let's not forget. Like, some very good performance for London. Fair play to them. Even Michael Maher was saying in post-match interview on RTE that his sides have more to give. Jeez, that sounds very promising to be a London fan. They're delighted for them. It's great to see GAA develop, and it's great for Liam Gavigan especially, like a London-born player to play for London and excel so well for them. It's an absolute brilliant story. And for Leitrim again, like they lost to Cavan and they lost by 2 points in this game. Not really the end of the world, but at the same time, you need to win these games to get promotion. Maybe Andy Moore needs a year to develop this team more. They definitely have the players. It's just about, again, the execution. I keep going back to that. And before we leave this game, fair play to Cavan's Maggie Farley, the first female referee to referee an Alliance League game. It's great for the GAA, great for the sport in general, and hopefully there'll be more initiatives like this. And she seemed to have a very good performance as well from what I was hearing. So well done to Maggie for that game. Well done to London for their league campaign to date.
Absolutely, yeah, no, brilliant to see that as well. Like, and probably something that maybe should have happened a lot sooner, and maybe in my opinion, but I think it is great, obviously, to see the GAA finally doing more things like that. And yeah, like we were saying there with London, like just three scores other than their goalkeeper, just 4 scores in total, just from looking at the score BO app there. So I mean, crazy stuff really from a London point of view. 99 Aguero was saying there, when is the results prediction podcast? That'll be out on Thursday, so stay tuned for that. We'll be chatting about London, and yeah, all the games happening this weekend. There's definitely a lot of games, and he was also saying it's Dublin in the Tailteann Cup. I don't know if that's a wind up or if it's a genuine question. If it's a genuine question, I will answer and say relegation to Division 1 won't land us. Relegation from Division 1 won't land us in the Tailteann Cup. But Jesus, the way things are going, I mean, you just wouldn't know at this point. But I suppose last but not least, Carlow, they get a first win of 2022. Big response, obviously. They were heavily criticised after their 23-point annihilation to Sligo, 2-12 to 2-8. I suppose much better from Noel Cruz, man.
Yeah, very good win for Carlow. I actually thought Waterford would go on and win this game. But again, fair play to Carlow for winning this game. Again, like Carlow seems to be losing games, but one player seems to be standing up for them. I didn't see the scores in particular against Waterford, but over the last 2 games, Cullum Holton has hit the lights out for Carlow. He scored most of their scores. He scored all their scores against Sligo, for example. He scored, I think it was 1-5 against London, most of those coming from play. So fair play to him. He's having a good year. He's keeping Carlow, steady in Division 4. And fair play to them. Look, Watford, it's transitional period for them. Aoife Fitzgerald, obviously the former Cork ladies football manager, coming in to replace him. Yeah, it's a tough one to take for Watford, but they got the point against Tipperary. That's a very good result for them in the first 3 games. And I suppose you have to be realistic about Watford. They're mostly into the likes of ladies football, hurling, camogie, soccer with Watford FC. They're not really a Gaelic football county, so fair play to them for concentrating the hurling. They might win the All-Ireland there. But again, fair play to Carlow for coming back from a big defeat against Sligo. And yeah, fair play to Carlow. And yeah, long may it continue for Carlow, for Cullum Holton, very good player. And just before we finish up as well, I wanted to congratulate NUIG for winning the Sigerson Cup last week. Brilliant victory for them. I know I'm in UL at the moment. It was a tough one to take, but without Tommy Conroy, without, I think, Sean Mulcairn as well, brilliant victory for them. And some very good young players like Matthew Tierney and Tom O'Callaghan coming up through the ranks, Colleen as well. So fair play to all of NUIG, and fair play to UL, obviously, win the Fitzgibbon on Saturday. Very interesting game, and Mikey Kiley does it again.
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't see the Fitzgibbon Cup game now, but I did see the Sigerson Cup final, and definitely, I suppose, keeping Clifford at bay, even in those tough conditions as well, I think was definitely very impressive. And Cathal Hennihan, I think it is, who came off the bench, he looks like a very, very good talent, no doubt about it. 99 Aguero says Michael Maher was only announced London manager after the league games in 2019, so he's done incredibly well for his first league campaign. Yeah, his first full league campaign, I suppose you could say, and absolutely brilliant stuff from the London-based man. I've listened to him on a few other podcasts as well, so massive congratulations to him. And I'm sure I'll probably get him on this podcast maybe at some point as well. But yeah, 3 wins from 3, and the thing is as well, like they've opened up a 4-point gap now with Leitrim. We'll see what happens with Cavan and Sligo, but there is a bit of a gap opening up there. So I really do think promotion is very, very likely at this stage. I suppose before we finish up, who would you say was your player of the week, moment of the week? What you reckon?
It's a tough one because of the conditions are definitely moments of the week. Like the fact that Clare and Roscommon got played, the fact that we travelled up to Derry, that's definitely moment of the week. I suppose the moment of the week is a tough one. Maybe Jordan O'Connor's performance on Saturday night, I thought was absolutely brilliant, and he should have got man of the match. I know Robbie Hindley performed very well, but look, brilliant performance from Dermot, and definitely another underrated player, and even kicking the ball straight into, I think it was him that started the attack and passed it off to Ian Norm for the goal as well. So very good moment for them. And Mayo's general performance, very good on Saturday night, and maybe for some people in the country, not for yourself, Aaron, but the Dubs falling to their 3rd defeat in a row.
Yeah, I suppose I'd imagine it is plenty of enjoyment anyway for everyone around the country, like, because I mean, when you see a team winning for so long and then all of a sudden they're absolutely terrible, there definitely is some enjoyment. The only comparison I can probably make to it is seeing Man United fall, having been so dominant for so long. Like, I definitely get a lot of pleasure off watching them fail. So I think I can understand that really from other people's point of view. Yeah, I think Michael Plunkett was brilliant as well for Mayo. I was very impressed with his performance, like kicking 2 points. I think he's a player that's come under a little bit of criticism at times, not just from pundits or whatever, but from Mayo fans as well. So I think for him to show up and deliver, I thought he was very, very impressive. And Killian Spillane for Kerry, very good as well. And Sean O'Shea, I suppose you can't dismiss his performance, like hitting 7 points. He was absolutely incredible stuff. But yeah, I suppose before we finish up then, where can people find your own podcast? And obviously you do a lot of stats on games and all the rest, so where can people find them?
GAA_Statsman on Instagram, on Twitter as well, on Facebook. I'm now on YouTube to do previews for the podcast. Hopefully, weekly previews to Allianz League games coming up. They're on Spotify, Apple, every podcast app. So they're on that, literally just GAA_Statsman on Instagram, and you'll find most of the links there.
Brilliant. Yeah, well, it's linked down below anyway, so if anyone could check that out, that'd be absolutely brilliant. And yeah, for anyone that has listened on Spotify to this podcast, if you could give it a rating, that'd be much appreciated. And if you are new to the channel, if you could subscribe in the bottom right corner, helps the channel grow, and leave a like as well. Leave a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts on all the weekend's action. So yeah, cheers, Matthew, for coming on. Appreciate it.
No bother, Aaron. Thanks for having me.